please think twice before you make the mistake of doing what is considered a nice thing and end up putting yourself out of business or worse. Earlier this week, I found myself in a situation where a relatively new client that we took on this season, but we've been mowing for a few months now, decided to either get or put up a trampoline that they never had in the backyard when I quoted their yard or anything. It was never mentioned to me or anything. Not a big deal, right? It's a common thing, I'm sure. People put up fences, do all kinds of stuff, and they don't bother to say anything to you, and you can either choose not to say anything or you can say something, especially if it involves extra trimming, edging, any of that kind of stuff around. And you would think moving stuff too, obviously that takes time. But I remembered an unfortunate situation that happened not too long ago where a company went out of business because they were sued by moving a trampoline to be nice. They thought they were doing a nice thing. One, it was probably easier for them, right? Which is the same reason why I started to get myself into a situation, because rather than having to trim all around it and underneath it and all that, you figured just move it out the way and then mow it real quick, mow that area real quick and then move it back. Well, here's the issue. When you do that, so many things can go wrong. It could be perfectly positioned in the right spot where it's level and even and the kids can bounce around and all that stuff. And if you move it and then move it back, for some reason you might not move it back in the exact same spot, therefore it might not be perfectly level and you might not have realized it. But more importantly and more commonly is that when you moved it back and forth, you could have loosened something up or adjusted something or broke something by accident. Maybe they didn't set it up properly to begin with, or you just accidentally broke something and didn't realize it, and you wouldn't realize it until your client's children get on the trampoline and start jumping around and doing backflips and everything. And can you imagine what would happen if they're doing backflips, which is dangerous to begin with? Not your issue, right? But it is if when they go to land a backflip or when they jump off to do the backflip, something happens to the trampoline and it buckles down, or when they land, it buckles down and they tumble and they break their neck. And it's very unfortunate on so many levels. I'm not going to go into names and give any personal details because that's respectfully other people's information. But that company really was just thinking that they were doing the right thing, and unfortunately they contributed to a very tragic circumstance. And I don't want to be that person, and I don't want you to be that person. And I've seen so many times on social media, even on YouTube videos, people moving trampolines out of the way and their time lapse or whatever, and they want to continue those stripes all the way through, and then they move the trampoline back. And even people might ask you to move their trampoline. Hey, can you move the trampoline so you can get all the grass underneath? And you know what? We have to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't, even if we have their permission. Because what's going to happen if you mess something up and their kids break their neck? Who do you think they're going to blame? They're not going to blame themselves. Most likely, they're not going to blame themselves for asking you or telling you to move the trampoline back. They're just going to blame you, like, oh my gosh, the lawn guy moved the trampoline and moved it back and they must have messed something up. They should have been more careful or whatever. It's a really, really horrifying situation to be in on all accounts, especially when that's your child that happened to. So you're just not going to be thinking straight. And honestly, you're just, as the person that moved it, the lawn care provider, you're the one that's going to be held liable. And it's just bad on so many levels. Morally, you're stuck living with that, and then obviously legally, you're stuck living with that, and your business just is done. It's over, and your life might potentially be over because now you're stuck paying this family for the rest of your life, and you don't even know how because you don't even have a business anymore. And it can just go downhill so bad. And we're just out there trying to mow lawns. Most of us enjoy it for various reasons. We, want to have our own business for various reasons. And we're just trying to do the right thing when we're out there. We're not thinking maliciously. We're not even thinking of that potential. I mean, who thinks of that kind of stuff? but freak accidents happen. That's why we should not do anything like that. We should not be moving people's stuff out of the way, because damage could be done. Obviously, you're picking up toys, dog toys, stuff, and you're putting them to the side off the lawn because they're in the way. You don't want to damage them. But as far as trampolines or any other large objects like that that could become dangerous if something breaks or they become unstable, just leave it alone. Just trim around it, trim underneath it best you can, and that's it. At best, you can ask the clients to move the trampoline on their own before you get there so that you can get the grass underneath it. Or maybe they want to come out and do it while you're there. That's fine too. But don't ever move it on your own. And I was reminded of this the other day, like I started this video out because I mistakenly went to move the trampoline like 4 inches. I'm like, oh man, because it was up in it was in a corner that I couldn't get past in between the edge of the trampoline and the fence with my mower, my 48-inch deck mower that I had in the backyard already at that time. I couldn't get in between. I didn't want to go get a 36-inch mower out of the trailer or anything ridiculous like that. And I definitely didn't want to have anyone trim that whole, because to get through there, now you have this whole area to be mowed, but the trampoline kind of was up against a tree that was up against a fence, and it just kind of cornered off this whole area of the lawn that nobody wants to trim that whole section. So I'm like, man, all I need to do is literally move it over an inch, really, just to get the mower through. I mean, it was just barely enough. I just couldn't get through. So I'm like, what's the harm in moving it an inch? But whether it's an inch or 4 inches, as soon as I scooted it over, the thing came up. The trampoline came up off of the posts, the legs of the trampoline. And I was like, oh, and I just freaked out and put it back down on there and kind of inched it back over where it was, made sure it was stable and everything. And I was completely reminded of that situation. I kind of freaked out, and I told the client, hey, I'm sorry, this is what I did. It looks like it's fine. I put it back exactly the way that it was, and I don't know why they didn't attach the legs to begin with. I mean, their kids could be bouncing, a thing could come off, which isn't your fault until you mess around with it and they see you mess around with it. Now you get blamed for it. So you never know. These people might not even install their trampolines properly, which again is not your fault until you touch it. Then it becomes your fault. So I cleared everything away. I said, look, I'm not touching your trampoline ever again. Please double check it, make sure it's stable. And of course they were super understanding. Oh no, that's okay, it's our fault, we understand. Yeah, we just, my husband just didn't finish doing it properly. I don't understand, blah, blah, blah. All that. You get into this whole family drama situation. But the bottom line is, just don't do it. That's horrifying when that happened. I was like, oh my gosh, so it is what it is. So they're either going to move it on their own, or they said, don't worry about it, just do the best you can. We'll just trim around and whatever. And there's that whole big section, unfortunately, that we'll have to trim. We'll work it out. We'll resolve that. It's not the end of the world. I'd rather do that and charge them a little extra if I have to, or just make sure, ring the bell and say, hey, can you move the trampoline this week? Remember you're supposed to move it or whatever. Then have a lawsuit. And even worse, have someone injured because I did something that I thought was the right thing and ended up being tragically wrong. So again, just don't do it. It's nice, you think it's nice, but it's going to end up not nice. It's just going to be awful. So don't do it. I know a lot of people that have that in their contract that says we will not move this, that, and the other thing. We will not touch this, that, and the other thing, including trampolines. It is what it is. If you have a trampoline, for example, it's just going to be there. You can move it on your own. Every other week we recommend moving it over so that we can mow the grass underneath. It also is a good idea because then you won't kill the grass underneath your trampoline as well, to just kind of move the trampoline around a little bit to give those areas of grass a break. So, a lot of people have that in contracts. I, for one, don't have contracts. I don't make clients sign off on anything, but I have service agreements. So when they click approve for any estimate that I give them, they're approving that service at that price, at that frequency, and everything that's involved in that. So within those agreements, that's where I add a lot of things on there. And trampolines is one of those things that you can put in there. I don't currently have that, or I didn't currently have that there, because I don't often have trampolines as an issue, but I obviously need to go ahead and update that and make sure that that's listed as one of the things on there when they get their estimate, so that they see, hey, if you happen to have a trampoline, or if you ever get a trampoline, we are not responsible for moving your trampoline. We're not liable for any damage done to the trampoline or anything like that. We will do our best to mow and trim around it. We recommend that you alternate, move it around a little bit every other week, so that we can get to the grass underneath, and it also helps your grass not die, and so on. And that's it. So that's as good in court, if something were tragically to happen, as having them sign, an agreement, because they clicked approved. It's all right there. Depending on what software you use, it's right there. So I know Service Autopilot, which I've been using for over a year and a half, I get notified when an estimate is approved, and you can go into their account and you can see that they approved the estimate. It's right there. So I could print that up. I can print that audit trail and provide it if I needed to for legal reasons. I could also provide that to the clients to remind them, hey, look, remember you signed off on this. Like, if they complain or give us a hard time about not doing anything with the trampoline, we can say, hey, remember when you signed up for service, you clicked approve on this service, and part of the service is not touching your trampoline because of liability and safety reasons, and here's proof if you need it. And that's it. They clicked approve, not you. It's all right there. It says client approved. It says their name and everything. They approved it on the date and all that. The service that they approved, it's all right there. So this way, it really does help you in those situations, just in case. I mean, you shouldn't be messing with a trampoline anyway. This is to protect you from not getting, people giving you a hard time for not moving their trampoline, thinking that you're lazy or you're not doing a good service. But you actually are doing the best service to them by not moving the trampoline, because bad things can happen, and I've seen it happen, and it's honestly horrifying. So please don't be that person, that company that really is genuinely trying to do a thorough job, think you're doing the right thing, and you end up doing something tragically wrong that could be life-changing for you and your client. So I hope this video wasn't too deep, too dark, too scary, but hopefully was helpful. I was reminded of it the other day when I innocently enough and carelessly enough tried to move a trampoline just a couple of inches so I could squeak by and save some time, and the whole thing came off the legs, and I just freaked out, and it reminded me of all this, and I was like, I gotta make a video, because I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one out there, because I've seen it on social media, and that's not something we should be promoting on social media either. But sometimes you just don't know. You're just trying to be innocent enough to be a good person and do the right thing, and you have no idea. You've never experienced this. You never heard the stories. You never saw these things happen. Just don't do it, guys. And put that in your contract or your estimates that you send out, regardless of what system you use, or if you do them by hand. I mean, please have a software that does it for you, so that you have a better, paper trail and tracking for it. Click the link in the description below if you want more information for Service Autopilot. Take a free tour and all that. But that's just going to help you out. But however you do it, whatever you use, make sure you put it in your estimate that if they approve this estimate, this is what's involved, including we're not moving trampolines when we mow your lawn. That's it. Anyway, guys, if you like this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you guys waiting for? There's all kinds of videos that I put out every week. From more reviews to just kind of vlogging about what's going on in my life and business, and growing with a crew now, and trying to get to a second crew, and all the trials and tribulations with that, and employees, and different types of equipment setups, and all that kind of stuff. And then videos like this where stuff comes up in the heat of the moment, and I really want to share them to help you guys watching this, the viewers. So if you really do appreciate it, like I said, give us a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, share the video, and I'll see you guys on the next video. But don't forget to keep trying new things safely and be a rookie for life. Peace.